It is already sad and difficult enough when a family member suddenly disappears. Those first minutes when you begin to suspect that something is not right, since your loved one should have already returned some time ago. That stress of not answering the cell phone or having it turned off, and the complete desperation as the hours and days pass and the police are already involved. Without a doubt, it must be the worst nightmare that a family can live through. But there is something worse. When that loved one leaves you a last message, even more suspicious than their departure. That is what you will see in this collection. Mysterious disappearances of people who are not yet found, and who also left strange messages before vanishing. Because my name is Leonore Clay, and this is The Darkest Secret. Today we present the most terrifying last messages left by people who disappeared forever. Number 4. We begin this video with an enigmatic case of Marilyn Bergeron, who disappeared on February 17, 2008, leaving behind a series of disturbing questions and fragmented clues. The young Canadian, born on December 21, 1983, had recently moved back to her parents' house in Quebec City after living in Montreal, but her return was not normal. That day, she arrived desperate, crying as if something horrible had occurred to her. It all started at the beginning of December 2007, when Marilyn met up with a friend from college. The friend says that she had never seen Marilyn like this. That day, she collapsed and began to cry profusely. When her friend asked her what had happened to her, Marilyn didn't want to answer anything. The friend accompanied her to her parents' house, where Marilyn kept telling her family that she didn't feel safe living alone in Montreal, and that she wanted to stay there in Quebec. Days passed, but Marilyn's mood did not improve. In fact, it got worse. She would stay away from the windows. She was paranoid, and she would be heard crying for no reason. At one point, Marilyn asked her sister if there was a light at the end of the tunnel, a phrase that made it clear that something serious had happened to her. Her father sat with her and begged her to please tell him what had happened so she could go to the police. She said that the police couldn't help her, and that for their sake she couldn't tell them anything, and by not doing so was a favor to them. The father took a risk and asked her the worst thing he could imagine. Did you steal something? Did you hurt someone, or did they hurt you? Did you witness some terrible event? The girl denied all of that, and while sobbing repeated, "No, none of that. It's much worse, much worse." Although her parents insisted with questions, she always denied giving details. But her expression of pain when faced with her mother's question about a possible physical assault shed light on a traumatic situation she had experienced. It was not a murder. It was not an assault. It is much worse, were her last words. On the morning of February 17, 2008, Marilyn announced that she wanted to go for a walk alone. Her mother convinced her to stay a little longer for coffee. However, around 11 a.m., Marilyn left the house wearing a black coat and suede boots. She left her purse and a pack of new cigarettes near the door, taking only her credit card. Hours later, security cameras captured Marilyn attempting to withdraw 60 Canadian dollars from an ATM in Loretteville. The transaction was rejected, and images showing Marilyn looking helpless, with fear always looking over her shoulder. People familiar with the area have suggested she may have been looking at a car parked nearby. That afternoon, she bought coffee at a store 12 miles from her home, but the staff noticed she was anxious to leave. This was the last time she was seen. The initial investigation concluded that Marilyn may not have committed suicide, but this theory has been questioned. Her family has suggested that Marilyn may have been the victim of a crime, especially given the fears she expressed before she disappeared. Marilyn hinted that she had experienced something unimaginable while living in Montreal. This has led to speculation about possible connections to organized crime, sex trafficking, or even witnessing an extremely violent act. Her friends say that Marilyn's taste in boyfriends had become dark and dangerous. This is why some believe in the possibility that one of her boyfriends got her involved in some personal war with a mafia or criminal organization, and something so serious that perhaps they would go after her family. Only something like that could have made her escape from that city. In 2009, several witnesses reported seeing Marilyn in Hawkesbury, Ontario, accompanied by a younger man. A couple also reported that a woman similar to Marilyn knocked on their door on a cold December night of that year, crying and asking to use a telephone. The Bergeron family finds these clues credible and has speculated that Marilyn may be living a new life in Ontario. However, none of this has been proven. To this day, Marilyn Bergeron's case remains unsolved. The mix of clues, mysterious behavior, and the lack of definitive answers have turned her disappearance into one of Canada's most disturbing mysteries. What really happened in Montreal? Did Marilyn escape from a real threat or from her own inner demons? Tell me what you believe. Number 3. On September 7, 2015, Henry McCabe, a 32-year-old auditor from Liberia, disappeared under mysterious circumstances in Minnesota, United States. Before his disappearance, he was considered an exemplary husband and man, a completely normal person. Like several other nights, he went out with his friends to have a few drinks, but that day, everything changed. They were at the nightclub in Spring Lake Park with William Kennedy, one of their friends. During the night, Henry consumed a considerable amount of alcohol. Around 2 a.m. and on the way back, Henry asked William to drop him off at a gas station instead of at his house. Later, after Henry disappeared and the police got involved, William told the authorities that his friend's request seemed somewhat strange to him, but at the time, he didn't question it. From that point on, the situation takes on a darker and more disturbing tone. Shortly after William dropped him off at the gas station, Henry made a call to his wife, Corinne McCabe. During the call, his tone sounded delirious, and the noises heard in the background were alarming and entirely out of the ordinary. A complete nightmare for his wife. She believes this was a call for help. Now you will hear the audio of that fateful night, but I can tell you that the recording is very disturbing, so I recommend that if you are watching it with children, you lower the volume or skip this post altogether. Could you sleep after hearing something like that? This was the last message heard from him alive before his disappearance. A disconcerting audio that includes babbling, screams, and even roars similar to those of a wild animal. Experts who have analyzed this audio agree that it is difficult to make out clear words, but the combination of distressing sounds has led to speculation that he may have been attacked by someone or something. However, it has not been possible to confirm this hypothesis. Another important fact to note is that after this call, several communications were made from Henry's phone to an unknown number located in the state of Texas, a number that was completely blocked shortly after. It is unclear whether these calls were made by Henry or someone else. A search for Henry involved police, family, and volunteers. During the investigations, strange clues emerged. An FBI informant reported that Emmanuel and other men in the group of friends he went out with that night often left the search teams to have private conversations. On October 2, 2015, almost a month after the disappearance, the New Britain Police Department received an anonymous letter. In it, the sender indicated that Henry's body was in Lake Rush, partially buried, and suggested using search dogs to locate him. On November 2nd, authorities found his body floating in said lake. However, there were no obvious signs of violence on the body. Although the autopsy concluded that the cause of death was drowning, many elements do not add up. The frightening voicemail suggested that there may have been an altercation before his death. Friends who were with him that night offered inconsistent statements. William Kennedy changed his initial story, later claiming that he dropped Henry off at a second gas station. The anonymous letter raises the possibility that Henry did not drown by accident, but rather that someone else moved his body to the lake. Others speculate that Henry may have taken his life in an episode of confusion caused by alcohol, and there is even talk of an encounter with some paranormal creature. However, his wife Corinne repeatedly insisted that due to the condition in which the body was found, she believed that Henry remained alive during the first days after his disappearance. What happened to Henry that night? Was he attacked by someone or something during that phone call? Would his friends have been involved in his disappearance? Without a doubt, one of the most strange and disconcerting cases in recent years. And the combination of troubling clues, inconsistent testimonies, and the lack of conclusive evidence leaves more questions than answers. To this day, his death remains a mystery that will likely never be completely solved. Number 2. In this position, we find ourselves with another mysterious disappearance, and this time occurring in Chile. A disappearance that involved an elderly woman whose case has become an intricate puzzle for the police. It was May 12, 2024, Mother's Day, a date that promised to be one of celebration and joy for the familia of Maria Ercira Contreras, an 84-year-old woman, but that unfortunately ended up becoming the beginning of a heartbreaking nightmare, which to this day remains unsolved. That day, the evening had been wonderful. Everyone was enjoying and laughing at the Fondo Las Tórtolas restaurant in Limache. On one occasion, Maria excused herself to go to the bathroom, while the others continued enjoying the food. 5 minutes passed by, then 10, then 20. That's when Carla, one of the goddaughters, decided to go to the bathroom to look for her, but she wasn't there. She looked around for her. Maybe she was lost, or at the wrong table, but nothing. Carla remembers with anguish what happened from that moment on. When I realized that my grandmother was not coming back, I ran to the owner of the restaurant to ask for help. We needed to watch the security cameras to find her as soon as possible, but instead of support, I received indifference. She ignored me, and she just pointed towards the camera saying, "There they are." It was like she didn't care about what was occurring, Carla said. As the family frantically searched the entire compound, another chilling detail came to light. According to Carla, the owner of the restaurant seemed more concerned about collecting the bill than about Maria's disappearance. But the most upsetting thing came shortly after. Carla remembers a phrase that to this day torments her. On this occasion, the final sentence was not said by the victim, but by another person suspected of her disappearance. On one occasion, the owner of the premises approaches Carla and says, "I recommend that you eat your food that was left in the kitchen because it's going to be a long evening." It was only 5:30 in the afternoon. "I was stunned," Carla confessed. That phrase was the beginning of my nightmare. Since then, the search for Maria has been exhaustive, covering ravines, canals, and forests near the restaurant. However, time has passed without clear answers. The hypotheses are varied, from an accident, a criminal act, to a possible kidnapping for ransom. Despite this, the family faces not only despair due to the uncertainty, but also frustration at the apparent lack of empathy from those who could have helped from the beginning. The case, which was under investigation secrecy for months, was recently reopened to the public, renewing the family's hopes for answers. However, for Carla and her family, the wound remains open. "We want to know what happened to my grandmother, and we will not rest until we find the truth." Imagine this happens to you. You go to eat with your family, and one of them disappears forever, without a trace, without clues, without a body, without any witnesses, and with a string of strange situations. For example, a person who was passing near the restaurant says he saw a white van where the driver and passenger were seen in some kind of argument. The driver had grabbed the woman by the neck. It was obvious that she wanted to get out, but the driver did not let her leave. Another example is that after her disappearance, there have been several bank transfers from her account to others. The mystery of Maria Ercira Contreras has not only shocked Limache, but has also become a symbol of the pain and resilience of a family that fights tirelessly for justice. Number 1. We conclude this collection with the enigmatic disappearance of Amber Tugarro, a 20-year-old Canadian First Nations woman who in August 2012 had traveled from Fort McMurray, Alberta, to the Edmonton International Airport with her young son and a friend. The plan was simple, a getaway for a few days, but fate had other plans. Excited by the idea of exploring, Amber made a decision to venture into the city alone by hitchhiking. It was the last time anyone saw her alive. The next day, when Amber did not return to the hotel, her friend contacted her mother, Vivian Tugarro, who immediately reported her missing to the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. However, authorities downplayed the family's concern, suggesting Amber was probably partying and would return soon. This indifference marked the beginning of a series of errors that clouded the search. Days later, Amber's phone records revealed something shocking. She had made a call while she was with an unknown man. In the audio released by police weeks later, a visibly distraught Amber is heard questioning the man about the route. Audio that clearly shows that something strange was happening inside the cabin.
Where are we by?
We're just heading south of Beaumont, or north of Beaumont.
We're heading north to Beaumont. Yo, where are we going? No, this is Are you kidding me? You better not take me anywhere I don't want to go. I want to go into the city. Jeez. Yo, we're not going into the city, are we? No, we're not. Then where are these roads going to?
50th Street.
50th Street. Are you sure?
Absolutely.
Yo, where are we going?
50th Street.
50th Street.
50th Street.
Jesus, right?
Jesus.
Over now.
Bravo.
Bravo.
As heard in the recording, the subject insisted with an unsettling calm that they were going where she wanted, but his tone reveals an alarming dishonesty. This recording lasted just 17 seconds and became the last time Amber's voice was heard. On September 1st, 2012, a group of horsemen found Amber's remains on a rural property in Leduc County, a place known to be the scene of mysterious disappearances and deaths of women, many of them indigenous. The discovery closed the search, but opened wounds that have not yet healed. The investigation was plagued with negligence. Amber was removed from the missing persons list just a month later due to unconfirmed reports of sightings, and potential evidence was destroyed due to procedural errors. Criticism of the police intensified, especially when the woman claimed to know the identity of the man in the recording, but no concrete action was taken. One witness even pointed out his own father as the man in the audio, alleging that he had lived illegally in Canada and was responsible for other disappearances in the region. However, authorities have never pressed charges or confirmed his identity. A case that cries for justice for the Tucarro family. Amber's case is not only a personal tragedy, but a symbol of the systemic failures in the treatment of Indigenous women in Canada. Amber's voice on that call, filled with anguish and struggle, remains a chilling reminder of her search for help, one that came too late. Although the case remains unsolved, the fight for justice for Amber continues. The family organizes memorial events and keeps her memory alive, hoping that one day the truth will come out and Amber will finally rest in peace. Were you aware of this as well as the other disappearances exposed in this video? Do you have knowledge of others that should have appeared in this collection? Leave them expressed in the comment box, because this video has come to an end. My name is Leonore Clay, and this was The Darkest Secret.